Hey everyone, today we have a control dash list to jump into. This is something that I want to hold off on until I was actually able to go out and test it, and I just came back from an armory. So I feel pretty confident in being able to share this list. I think that it can be competitively viable. So the main purpose of this deck is going to be looking to win each game through the combination of Induction Chamber, Plasma Purifier, and setting these two in combination to shoot your pistol for a total of 4 up to 3 times per turn. You do have some option to use High Octane if, for instance, you are in a complete late game stall and you need to boost maybe once or twice in a turn to get a few more pistol shots in to really close the game out. But mainly here as just an ability to filter, draw a card if you get left to the large hand for some reason, and it blocks 3. In order to supplement this game plan to be able to live long enough to set up all these items, we have lots of defensive tech, lots of life gain, lots of D-reacts. We have Sigil, Healing Balm, Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, Unmovable, Springboard Somersault, and that all you got. We also have some 3 blocks that can actually be used proactively. For instance, our opponent is stalling, or if we're in a matchup where we probably should be trading damage in the early to mid game. So we have E-Strike and CNC, great cards as always. And we also have a tutor to help us go get the items with Spark of Genius. Now the upside of this deck is that it blocks 3, or in essence gains you 3. You do have some matchups where you're going to be pretty much primarily blocking for the majority of the game. The only issue with those matchups is I kind of wish I was able to actually cut the pistol items. I had like a game tonight against Briar where, despite them having CMH, I just got stuck with the items in hand and I didn't want them there. And you could run Crown of Providence, but the problem is eventually you do redraw them again in the second cycle. And this is a deck that goes to second cycle since you are so defensive. Even if you're losing the entire game and you end up losing at the end, you'll probably still go to second cycle anyway, just because you are so defensive. This is naturally going to kind of get there. So redrawing the pistol items late game is actually kind of bad. And I actually really disliked having Induction Chamber and just using 1 blue to shoot twice a turn. But these are here mainly for Oldhim. And I think when Oldhim LLs after the Skirmish season, at least I'm making the assumption he's going to, I could kind of see actually like cutting these and just going down to 1 Induction Chamber and maybe running like Fighting Spirit or something else in the slots. It would depend on, you know, what new generics we get, but there's probably some good stuff out there. But going back into the list, primarily defensive armor, we have Skullcap making its way back, Galvanic Bender, which actually could just be Iron Rot arms, gloves, whatever it's called. There's no reason to have that distinction. Just looks cooler, I guess. But you also have Iron Rot legs, you have Tackle Foundry Heart. You're just going to be blocking. You're just a blocking deck. That's all it is. You're going to be above rate of your opponent just by blocking out and then using your pistol coming for 4. Or if you're fatiguing, you're just going to be full blocking all the time. And it's great. Going into the sideboard equipment, it's kind of weird, but it probably makes sense. Tunics here for incredibly grindy matchups, so things like arguably like Warrior and Guardian. These decks, you know, you're gonna be going easily in the second cycle. And the idea is that when you bring in Tunic, you bring in the Ironhide Gauntlet and the Ironhide legs. The idea is that in these matchups, since they're so grindy, instead of having 1 value on your blocking equipment with Bender and Iron Rot legs, you can use Tunic and you can turn those into 2 block each. Tunic can pay for them, and then when you're done with it, it blocks for 1. So the idea is that Foundry Heart plus Iron Rot and Bender is 5 life. Tunic is the same, but you can also get utility out of the resource. You can also be a complete degenerate and run AB4 into wizards and try to basically just like fatigue them just by completely running them out of threats. Kano has lost a little bit of his edge being able to pitch stack tomes with either Wildfire to beat fatigue decks and to just beat decks that are just trying to block out arcane damage. Losing Wildfire, I think, is going to make it pretty difficult for him to win just because of the concentration of blues. If you are worried about more wizards, you honestly could cut the 3 pistol items for just more additional blues to the deck. You also could cut High Octane as well. High Octane felt cool, but it didn't feel necessary in my games tonight. I honestly think you could just cut High Octane for more blues if you're expecting more wizards and you just want to be annoying. There's no other way to put it. But the deck is pretty fun. You your absolute insane turn 1 play is like playing Healing Bomb and then playing Sigil, because the Healing Bomb takes your action point, but Sigil is an instant. If you can do that in Arsenal D-React, it's pretty hard for your opponent to win. Springboard Somersault's really good. There was even a moment tonight where I played Fate Foreseen. I saw a Springboard Somersault on the top of my deck, and then I used that all you got with an empty hand, which was really cool because I got to draw the Springboard Somersault, put in my arsenal for my turn. And I still lost the game anyway, so it doesn't matter, but I probably should state that I think the deck is pretty fun. If you have a certain meta where you think that this list would work really well, you should definitely run it. I don't think it's that competitive. It loses really hard to Rhinar, which currently is like a really big portion of the Blitz meta. Would lose really hard to Prism as well, if people are bringing that in order to counter Icelander or Oldhim. And honestly, if Briar's ever around, you just can't do anything through CMH. You're a hyper defensive deck, you have no on hits, there's no way for you to stop them from playing CMH, and CMH just goes too tall for your deck. I'm trying to think about what else would probably be a problem. I think Icelander's fine, but I think that if she is, teching for fatigue matchups, and she's like bringing in Chill, Amulet, and Frostex, there could be a potential endgame where you could lose, and for that you should be bringing in Tunic to be able to clear Frostbites through Ice Eternal endgame. So that's going to be difficult, but other than that, I think this deck would be pretty good into like a mid-range style meta. So if you have a lot of like Ira or Warriors, things like that, I think this could work pretty well. Also, if you have like Chain or aggro dash players, because this deck can fatigue those decks really easily. Although I should mention, like, you probably would want to cut the items. You could run Crown of Providence as well on this list. I just didn't have room for it. You probably could cut Northern Gloves and run Crown of Providence, and that actually gives you more flexibility to either turn your arsenal into a card to block with, although you shouldn't be blocking. You shouldn't be arsenaling cards that you can't block with or use for life gain. That'd be like a small, gameplay thing to know about the deck. But you could use Crown of Providence and filter out pistol items. I think if you're not expecting Guardians in your meta, you should just cut them for more 3 blocks or more defensive tech. And I think if you have that, you could probably prep for a lot of other decks pretty well. You can cut the High Octane if you want, depending on if you think you need it to close out games. I wasn't super impressed with the card, so I could probably cut it myself. But as a quick overview, just wanted to throw that list out there, see if people want to tinker around with it, add their own twist or add their own individual cards. So until next time, thank you for watching.